Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Today, we celebrate our water communion, one of our traditional UU rituals. So please, for later in the service, go ahead and prepare a cup of water for each person in your household. You will need it after the sermon for our water communion ritual. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
If you would like to participate or comment on our service, especially during our sharing of joys and sorrows, please use the chat feature in YouTube. We also invite you to send virtual hugs and waves to one another using parentheses around someone's name. After church today, we invite you into our Zoom room for coffee hour, small groups, and meetings. Our congregational meeting is today, September 13th, immediately following the service. Please check your email for your congregational meeting packet. We are voting on our slate of officers, our church budget, our church covenant, and 2 proposals by the Justice Committee. All church members are invited to attend and participate. Our religious education program launches for the school year today and is meeting after church during the congregational meeting so that parents can attend the congregational meeting. Please visit the UUCB RE Facebook page or check your email for the RE link to participate. We welcome all our children and youth to the programs today. The prelude prepares us for worship. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul, in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul, in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul, in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul, in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, in my soul.
Our church is supported by those who call our church home, and by those who support our church's efforts to change our world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values: to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is People Against Neighborhood Industrial Contamination, also known as PANIC, a group committed to the community affected by the 35th Avenue Superfund contamination site. All proceeds to PANIC will go towards funding a survey of the residents of the area on how to best serve them. During this time of social distancing and online services, please know that church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate your continuing to pay your pledge or offer your donation by mailing a check to the church office or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your donation is for UUCB or for PANIC. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
As we enter into our meditative space this morning, we lift up the friends and family of Reverend Gene Pickett, for whom our Pickett Room at the church is named. Please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. He passed away this summer. We also lift up all of those in California and Oregon who are dealing with the devastating wildfires this week, including folks who are having to evacuate from their homes in light of these devastating wildfires. We lift up all of the firefighters and first responders who are taking care of the situation. We also celebrate with Laura and Billy Nelson on the birth of their son, Porter, who was born this last Tuesday. Please send your cards and greetings to the church, and we will make sure they get to the family. Congratulations to Laura and Billy. Using the chat feature in YouTube, by speaking it aloud, or by hearing it on your heart, please share and give voice to what is on your heart today. As the water washes over all of us, we join together and say, "Blessed be."
I was born in the path of the winter wind. I was raised where the mountains hold. Their springtime waters came dancing down. I remember the tales they told. The whistling ways of my younger days too quickly have faded on by, but all of their memories linger on like the light in a fading sky. River, take me along in your sunshine. Sing me a song ever moving and winding and free. You rolling old river, you changing old river, let's you and me, river, run down to the sea. I've
Will the children please come forward? Good morning. This morning I would like to tell you a story about a drop of water named Higgins. Higgins was no ordinary drop of water. He was a drop with a dream. He lived in a valley where it had not rained in a very long time, so all of the lovely green grass was turning brown. All the beautiful flowers were wilting, and all the trees were starting to droop. Higgins had a dream that one day the valley would be a beautiful place again. But what could he do? After all, he was only a drop of water. One day Higgins decided to travel and tell others about his dream. All the other drops listened very politely, but no one believed that his dream would come true. Higgins said one, "Get your head out of the clouds. You can't spend your whole life dreaming." Higgins decided that he had to do something to make his dream come true, so he began to think and think and think. One day, as he was walking by a rusty old bucket, he got an idea. If enough of us drops of water get together in this bucket, he thought, there will be enough water to sprinkle on a few flowers to help them grow and become beautiful again. Eagerly, Higgins told everybody his great idea, but everyone thought he was being foolish. That Higgins is nothing but a dreamer, they said. Higgins decided he had to do something to convince the others that he was right. So he said to them, "I don't know about you, but I'm getting into the bucket, and I hope some of you will join me. Then there might be enough water to help some of the flowers grow beautiful again." So Higgins ran as fast as he could, and he hopped way up in the air and landed with a kerplunk in the bucket. And there he sat, just a drop in the bucket. For a long time, Higgins was very lonely. It seemed like no one was going to join him. But after a while, some of the other drops could see that the grass was dying, and the flowers were wilting, and the trees were drooping. And they all agreed that something must be done. Suddenly one shouted, "I'm going in the bucket with Higgins," and he leaped through the air and landed, kerplunk, in the bucket. Then two other drops yelled, "Wait for us!" and they hopped through the air and landed in the bucket. Then 10 drops jumped through the air and into the bucket. Then 30, then 50, and then hundreds of drops came from all around just to hop in the bucket. Soon the bucket was completely full of water, but there were still more drops that wanted to join. So they found another bucket and hopped in. Before long, there were 2 buckets of water, then 3, then 4, then 10, then hundreds, and then thousands of buckets of water. Along came a powerful breeze that blew over all the buckets, and all the water flowed together to make a mighty stream. Everywhere the water flowed, the grass turned green again, the flowers bloomed, and the trees stood tall and straight once more. And all this happened because Higgins had a dream, and his dream came true, because he knew that although he was just a drop in the bucket, enough drops in the bucket make a bucket full. And when there are enough buckets, and when the wind behind them, then justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. So I hope that you remember that even though sometimes we're just a drop in the bucket, we can make great change if we stick to our principles and if we persevere. Please join me in singing our song.
And now let's sing our principal song together. One, each person is worthwhile, to be kind in all you do. 3, we help each other learn. 4, and search for what is true. 5, all people get a vote. 6, build a just and peaceful world. 7, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too.
Like many of you, I've never had aspirations to run for political office. And yet in graduate school, I decided to run for treasurer of our Divinity School's student government. Practically, after all, it was one skill that I knew would be useful in professional ministry: the understanding and stress of working with a budget funded by other people. It's one thing to budget your own household's income and expenses. It's quite another to manage income and expenses of funds faithfully entrusted to you. I lucked out with half of the equation. The income was a lump sum deposited at the beginning of the year and was funded by our student activity fees, so no fundraising was needed. The first year I ran unopposed because, unsurprisingly, in a divinity school of 450 future clergy and nonprofit leaders, being treasurer was not high on anyone's bucket list. I can't even remember why I decided to run. After all, I'm not a big fan of math. But I love spreadsheets, and I know how to program a formula. So here I am, treasurer of the Divinity School's student government, and sitting on a pot of gold worth exactly $35,000, with the expectation that it would be spent in 9 months' time, no more, no less. As a good future UU minister, I did what all good UUs do. I formed a committee, a finance committee. I wanted to ensure that more voices were heard and more stakeholders were involved. I created an application for clubs to apply for funds, and the committee reviewed those applications. Suddenly, it was election season again, and this time I had 2 challengers. I have to say, it jarred me a little bit. Did they think I had done a poor job? They ran tough campaigns, and both would have been fine for the position. At one point, I had to sit myself down and say, look, you are taking this way too seriously. It didn't seem so important in the large scheme of things. And yet for the students who had invested their activity fees, who had raised the money to pay for it, it was really important that their funds were well managed and distributed fairly. For the last month, we've been looking at our UU principles. Our 5th principle is this: we, the congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The ideas of the 5th principle are as old as the Puritans. We trace our democratic roots all the way back to our Puritan ancestors, who voted on representatives to lead the colony, who allowed all freemen to vote, even those who were not members of the church. At the time, it was pretty revolutionary. They held annual meetings to vote on important matters. Their clergy were not allowed to run for public office. Our church's tradition, held today after church in a way like no other before it, is as ancient as the Puritans. We will allow every member of our community to vote, as spelled out in our policies and procedures and Constitution. You will have the opportunity to elect leaders for the upcoming year, to approve our church budget, meticulously crafted to be balanced with your pledges, to approve our church covenant, and to vote on 2 very important proposals by the Justice Committee. Because of the Puritan separation of church and state, I will not vote at the annual meeting, and we have worked to ensure that everyone who wants to vote can. In the grand scheme of things, today's vote may not mean anything to you. You may have a decades-long trust of the process and the institution. You may also have such trauma from other churches that the idea that important church decisions are up for a vote is a completely new idea to you. And yet, today's vote on our leaders could make a historic installation of our first Black board president and affirm again the representative democracy we practice here in this church, so that your elected leaders can keep the building maintained and our ministries thriving. Today's vote will mean a lot to the 18 staff members supported by this church. And today's vote will speak much about the stewardship of our funds. Today's vote could make official our church covenant, which outlines how we treat one another in community and models to new members what a healthy community can look like. We all bring to this space examples of what unhealthy community looks like. My husband Josh once worked for the Oklahoma State Department of Education. He was hired at a time that the elected Secretary of Education was much disliked by educators. He would go to professional development conferences to give his talks as part of his job, and on more than one occasion had teachers stand up and turn their backs on him or turn their seats around and blatantly talk loudly. All because his boss, a person he neither voted for nor cared for, was disliked by the people who did not vote for her. Did these teachers have the right to protest against an evil administration? Totally. Did they do it in a peaceful manner? Sure. Were their actions seen more painfully as they, a group of white women, stood in defiance of the only Latino employee of the State Department of Education, one of 4 people of color in the entire building, 2 of whom were the security guard and the custodian? Absolutely. Our church allows and invites and prepares for disagreement. We expect it. And our church covenant challenges us to disagree in respectful ways. Our covenant invites us to communicate, to reconcile, to realize our words can hurt more than we intend, to apologize, to forgive. Our covenant invites us into a new beginning, a community striving for health and well-being, a place we choose to belong and participate, a place we connect and grow as human beings, more in tune with nature and each other. The horizon is bright with possibilities. Today's votes on the 2 proposals by the Justice Committee may not seem like much to you, but they might mean the world to someone else. Our church does not make public statements without the vote of the congregation. Our church made a public statement in the 1960s when we allowed interracial gatherings in our building at a time when it was an illegal act to do so. Our church made a public statement in 2008 to become an officially welcoming congregation despite years of LGBTQ folks in our membership. It was important to have that congregational voice united in this case. This year, our church has the opportunity to join other houses of worship in the Cover Alabama initiative, to unite to advocate for health care for all Alabamians. Our church also has the opportunity to vote to formally indicate support for the movement for Black lives by telling our UU siblings of color they matter and they deserve better. Both small acts for those of us with health care and with whom police are kind. But congregational statements in support of these two movements lend our voice to the other voices already in the public square and publicly announces that we, the UU Church of Birmingham, believe in health care and that Black lives matter. Voting is an essential act within a UU church. It is not just a procedure or a box we check. It is the embodiment of our values, empowering us to address the changing views of humankind while firm in our foundation that we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. In the grand scheme of things, our congregational meeting may not matter to the whole world, but it matters to us. Like water brought from each of us and combined into one vessel, so too does our collective voice have power that ripples throughout our community. Reverend Parisa Parsa put it this way: in our religious lives, the democratic process requires trust in the development of each individual conscience, a belief that such development is possible for each of us, as well as a commitment to cultivate our own conscience. We could call it a commitment to the value of each person. In the words of Theodore Parker, democracy means not, I am as good as you are, but you are as good as I am. My connection with the sacred is only as precious as my willingness to acknowledge the same connection in others. You are as good as I am. May we greet one another in this spirit, in the spirit of conscience and democracy, in love and respect, in unity amidst disagreement, as we vote to uphold our ministries and declare our values to the world. May you be held in the heart of community until we are joyfully reunited in person. Amen. Let us now enter our reflective meditative space as we prepare for water communion. Please bring your cup of water in front of you. Water is the element that renews us. For centuries, it has been used to clean, to purify, to wash away outside influences that cloud who we really are. Today's water communion is different because we all sit in our own homes. We had a drive-through communion where we allowed folks to bring a little bit of water from home to share and to ritualize this moment of bringing ourselves, bringing all that we are into community together as we work to do the good work in the world. Take a moment to watch our drive-through water communion.
The boroughs are bringing water tomorrow.
It's coming from my tap at home, which I love. My home.
Love it. Love it. My home. Okay.
Don't we put our rock in there?
No, we didn't bring our rocks. That's extra rocks. That's rocks for us to think about stuff. Okay, so we got love, efficiency, gratitude, harmony, peace, love, friendliness, family.
I'm looking at love.
Okay, pour it on love. Because what was our water standing for? The love of what?
I'm thinking about love.
Okay, pour it in there.
On top of
Yep, pour it on top.
You got it.
Nope.
This is from Kelly Ingram Park, where I spent a lot of time this summer at marches.
I'm Terry. This water is from Birmingham Eastwood area, Flora Johnston Nature Park, which has 40 acres of wooded trails, and the creek, Shades Creek, is right next to it. And we are stewards of that creek, and that creek needs maintenance because people sometimes contaminate it, and we, the volunteer people with environmental concerns, are the ones that usually address that. And we have to very much nudge our paid employees of the state and the city. So thank you, and be part of it and come enjoy. This is from Washington, D.C.
So this water is from our kitchen tap, and it's representative of all the fantastic months we've spent holed up this year. And it's also got a touch of rose water in it to celebrate my own personal spiritual growth and his acceptance of it.
Why wouldn't I accept it?
Because I'm a weirdo.
It's been a fun few months, spent mainly at home. A lot of my time spent trying to teach the cats to whistle softly in 3/4 time. But no, seriously, it has been fun being at home, communing with the cats, getting things done. It's been a little bit of kind of renewal to that. So I'm trying to find the good in the bad.
Thank you to all who participated in our drive-through water communion. It is important to remember how we would do this if we were in person together. Now take a moment to acknowledge the cup of water in front of you. Take a breath. Smell the water in front of you. What does it smell like? Next, take a long, satisfying drink of water. Notice how it careens through your mouth, down your throat, hydrating, sustaining you. What does it taste like? Now, touch the water. Notice how elusive it is, while at the same time absorbing into your skin. Even after your hands are dry, do you feel the water there? Now, take a moment to listen. Remember the sounds of water, from your faucet, from pouring it into your glass, from a waterfall, from an ocean. What sounds of water remind you of renewal? Let us enter into a meditative space, listening to Coco Love Alcorn sing her piece entitled The River.
The river is a healer, the river is a sage. The river knows no end, and the river feels no age. The river is a leader every single day. It's living in the moment, and it always finds a way. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. The river calls me over, It's calling out my name in the day and in the night. I hear that river all the same. It's calling me over, calling out my pain. Oh, a river gathers tears just like a river gathers rain. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water I feel whole. The river is a traveler, always on the go. Oh, a river never worries if it's fast or if it's slow. River, take me to where I need to go, and I will just relax and let the river flow. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, by the water, water heal by the water, by the water, I feel whole. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, when I go down, down to the water, when I go down, down to the water, by the water, I feel whole.
Water renews us and water restores us. And in doing this ritual together, our energies are brought together despite the distance in the space between us. We are this community. Your contributions matter. May we look for ways to feel renewed and refreshed by remembering the power of water in our ritual today. Blessed be.
We have come together to share our deepest concerns, speaking and singing words of inspiration and hope. We have committed ourselves to do what we can to ease the burdens of those who suffer, to stand for decency and compassion. We have pledged to work for a more wholesome environment for us and for all the generations that will follow. But these are just words. The hymns we sing are just songs. All our reflections are just idle thoughts. When we convert them all into loving and responsible action throughout the week, then and only then will this morning become what we want it to be, a time of worship.